All right. So Rob here with McDojoLife. All right. Today I have a pretty interesting guest. Obviously, it's going to be a very much a perspective type show. I am fascinated by women in the martial arts, mostly about how they get treated as opposed to how men get treated, because obviously it's a male dominant sport. We have Sarrah Rose on the show today. And Sarrah is a jiu-jitsu practitioner, but also a tantric sex specialist, and that's her full-time job, is to help men and help couples with their sex lives and to try to better people through that. So how are you doing today, man?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for being on the show. Yeah, man. So I just wanted to ask you just a few starter questions, just so that we can kind of get the ball rolling. So like I said, I'm fascinated by how women get treated in the martial arts. I think that obviously you kind of get labeled or stereotyped or put into a pigeonhole. From what I've seen, this isn't always the case, so I'm trying not to be rude, so you can help me out here. But usually it's women who use their sexuality to progress themselves forward in the martial arts by posting scantily clad photos of themselves and things like that. Or you get the opposite, where it's women who are trying so hard to get away from sexuality just to be treated like one of the dudes. Is there a way to have a middle ground there, or what has been your experience?
Yeah, I'm sure with anything there's a way to have a middle ground. And I hear these stories about women in the martial arts and how they're treated, and I see some of that online. But my personal experience has actually been really good. I've been at two different schools since I started, and at both schools, I felt like my training buddies really respected me and they could see that I was really putting in the effort. I think that's part of it, like and it's not, I don't think it's just women. I think it's any new person that walks into a school, they're gonna be like, all right, are you gonna stick around or not? But when they see that I'm on the mat 5 days a week and I'm actually working really hard, then they start to give me the time and attention because they want to help me get better.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, I think there's definitely what you're talking about going on out there, but it's not something that I personally have had to deal with.
Well, that's a good thing. Like one thing that obviously the page does is we work on calling out fakes, frauds, and phonies. And one thing that does happen quite a bit is there is a lot of sexual harassment in the martial arts industry, which I think is one of the biggest reasons that it is a male predominant thing. Obviously, women and men are going to be different on some certain subjects. But when it comes to self-defense, I think that should be open for everybody, and everybody should feel comfortable with the ability to go. And for you in particular, you don't approach this by hiding your sexuality. You actually address it head on, mostly because of your job. And maybe you can kind of explain a little bit about what your job is and what it is you do in your day-to-day life that makes this conversation so relevant.
Yeah, well, I'm a men's sex coach, but my philosophy and the way that I aim my practice at helping people is through sexual empowerment, because our sexuality is so much more than just what happens in bed. It's not just the act of intercourse. Our sexuality affects our entire lives. It's really the creative energy of everything. It's the creative energy of the universe is what we believe in Tantra. And so it's my belief is that the suppression of our sexuality is what holds us back. It's what limits us, and it's what keeps us from being able to live really fulfilling lives. And it affects our relationships, it affects how we are in sex, it affects how we are in business, it affects everything. So when I take on a new part of my life, such as jujitsu, my sexuality is going to be a part of it. I'm not going to fragment it and say like, oh no, I cannot be sexual, here. And it's not that I go into jujitsu training being like very sexual, because I'm not. Like I do, I just go there to train and work hard, but I'm also not going to shut down my sexuality and pretend that it doesn't exist.
Hmm. That's something that I've noticed that, that's where the fence seems to be mostly on social media. Obviously, when women go to gyms and stuff like that, most gyms are very respectful and stuff like that. There is quite a bit of sexual harassment that goes on throughout the industry, but I would say 90% of the gyms are usually pretty cool about that kind of stuff. It's not the first time they've seen a woman. It's not the first time they've rolled, especially in jiu-jitsu. You're in compromising positions from time to time. That could be humorous, I guess you could say. But what I've noticed is on social media, especially, you have women who just typically stay far away from sexuality as humanly possible. And it seems to be as a mechanism to stop harassment for themselves, because I can imagine, especially on social media, I know out of anybody what harassment is like online, right? But then you go the opposite way where you don't mind doing that. Now, I have seen you personally get harassed by women as well. Not so much men, obviously, but you get harassed more from women. I'm sure you get some DMs that are probably like gross as shit, right? But like when it comes to women, they're the ones who typically actually attack you online. So
I mean, it's both. I get it. I definitely get it from men also. What I've learned though about sexuality is, and it's not just sexuality, it's any part of our life, any part of ourself that we repress and or suppress. It becomes a lost part of ourselves. And it becomes very painful when we see somebody else happily, joyfully expressing in their lives something that we've suppressed or repressed in our own life. And so I understand that as a sex coach. And when, in particular, women attack me based on my sexuality, I understand that most of the time those attacks are coming from a place of pain in themselves. And that's really what I work with people on, because I've also worked with women a lot in the past. Right now, I focus on working with men, but so many women have so much pain around their sexuality, and men do also. I mean, it's just part of the culture that we live in, unfortunately. And so that's really most of the work that I do with people, is helping them find pleasure in their sexuality, because that's what it should be. And instead, most people experience pain. Yeah.
You know, it's funny, like as you're talking, right? Some comments pop up, and it's funny, like just some of the people's comments already, right? Well, exactly what we're talking about. It's like, she's a pro at slowly and sensually applying the rear naked choke. That may be true. I mean, I've been saying it for a while now, but then somebody, again, this is the things we're addressing. It says, cool job, but being hot probably helps business too. It's like, it's one of those things where it's almost like condescending in a way. And those kind of like snide comments and stuff like that, obviously I think that they're just joking around. But the idea is that kind of stuff weighs on you. Like, I just had a conversation with somebody in my direct messages, because, I get, what most people don't understand is, I get threats daily. I get people make fun of my face daily. People make fun of the way I talk daily. I get death threats once a week. There's harassment that constantly happens 24/7, because I'm an internet entity. So the internet doesn't stop. So that constant bombardment just comes at you all the time. And what people don't realize is they're very selfish in nature. And they go, this is just me making a joke. But you're taking that and you're adding it onto another joke and another joke and another and another and another. You don't realize that you're a part of probably over 100,000 negative comments, right? Where rather than actually saying some shit that's fucking constructive, it's almost human nature to dive into some negative shit. It just blows my mind,
Yeah.
And I have to imagine exactly. Social media. People are allowed to hide behind their computer screens, right? And they're allowed to be the assholes that they were meant to be, but it's one of those things where, like, I'm getting that. What would you say is probably some of the worst stuff that comes your way?
I get a lot of people saying, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, things like that, which I just, let it go on by, because I know it's not true. I have a lot of training in what I do. I didn't just wake up one day and say, oh, I'm going to be a sex coach today. I have multiple certifications. I'm initiated. And so I'm very well trained and I know what I'm talking about. But I get that. And, I do get a lot of the, you're hot and so you're using that type of thing. It's like, no, like I just am who I am, and I'm just like living life just the way that I live life, because this is my authentic way of being. And that's how I work with my clients too, is, okay, what is true for you? Because what's true for me isn't going to be true for my clients. I don't try and turn them into Sarrah Rose. I help them find their own truth, their own power within them, so they can live from that place. And as far as what else I get, I don't know, just like, people are just shitty. But thankfully my followers are really awesome. Like I've got really, really great people that are very supportive and love me a lot. So I feel
Yeah.
really blessed. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. That's good that you're able to look at that stuff and you're able to stay positive and things like that because, the internet is kind of the wild, wild west of people's thought processes. And people just like toss the most random shit out of their mouth. Like, it's very interesting because what I've been doing recently, which I don't know if you've ever done, but it's kind of fun to do, is whenever somebody sends me like a direct message now, like one that kind of sticks out, like the one that we just were talking about a second ago before we came online, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Guy, I sent him a message and he was like, dude, I was just joking. And I was like, well, to you, you're joking, right? But you have to understand that you're adding negativity to negativity to negativity. You could have chosen to say something positive, but you chose to be a dick, right? And to you, that's a joke, but you have to understand that maybe it's not a joke to everybody else. And after we talked, the dude apologized and he was really cool. And now this is all going on in direct message. He could have just like ripped me apart, but he chose to be a cool guy. And I think that it's a little bit of understanding as we're so used to social media as being the outlet for our frustrations and our anger and our insecurities because it's easy. I can just type some negative shit and move on with my life. But what I also don't think that they understand is that kind of shit spills over. It spills over. Like if I'm constantly being negative online and that's the constant stimulus that I'm giving out, I'm going to slowly become that thing outside of social media. And I'm going to be that dick all the time. And I won't even notice. It's a slow change. So I think that kind of brings me to the next thing is like, obviously martial arts is something that is supposed to help you with that type of issue. That gives you an outlet for your anger and it gives you an outlet to kind of work through your problems. So what started you in the martial arts?
Yeah. And I mean, to what you were saying also, like between my different social media platforms, I've got about 50,000 followers. And so I notice in myself that there will be a negative comment. And that comment can just throw me for a loop. Whereas I'll have like 200 other positive comments. I'll have like all the amazing messages of, I love you, you're amazing, thank you for changing my life. And like, I'll let the one negative one fuck with my head.
Yeah.
And so I have to work on that in myself, like just not allowing myself to focus on the negativity, because we can do that as well. Like maybe we're not being negative, but we can still focus on other people's negativity. So I choose to go back to, the other ones and say, okay, yes, thank you. And also just having that in myself.
Yeah.
That, I'm cool with me, no matter what people are saying, good or bad, positive or negative about me. But to your question, what started me in martial arts?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I actually went in, it's been 11 months now. May 15th will be my 1-year anniversary of being on the mat. Yeah. Coming up on that. I'm excited. So I went in for just self-defense, and I didn't know anything about jiu-jitsu. I had never done any martial arts at all, ever. It's probably one of those chicks that, said jiu-jitsu and I said, made like karate sounds or something. Like, literally, I had no idea.
Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Everybody likes that
guy. and I went in and they asked me to put on a gi, and I was like literally horrified because my background before doing on my tantric sex certifications, I used to live in New York and I was in the fashion industry. And so that was like a thing. Like they asked me to put on a gi and I was like, what the hell is this? Like I had never seen one before. I almost left.
Because it wasn't fashionable.
It wasn't fashionable.
Okay,
yeah, I almost left. I was like, I can't do this. But I stuck around, and the coach was like, okay, when are you going to be back? And he was very persistent. And I was like, okay. So I came back again the same week, and I just loved it. I really fell in love with it. All aspects of it, really. But now, even though, I'm a one stripe white, so it's not like I'm like master in jiu-jitsu, I definitely know how to defend myself a lot better than I did a year ago. And it's really empowering. So I'm very, very grateful for jiu-jitsu.
That's awesome. And now we had talked about this previously as well, but you aren't at the same gym that you started. You're at a different gym now. And I think that that's something that a lot of people bring up in the jiu-jitsu community, not so much karate as much or stuff like that, although it does come up. But there's a phrase in jiu-jitsu. It's called a crianche. Have you heard of this phrase?
What is it?
Crianche?
No.
Crianche, it's a term that was based off of a character that was on a soap opera. And it basically refers to basically calling someone a traitor, is when they leave from one gym to another. Now, I think that that term is utter and complete horseshit. You're selling me a service. If I do not like the service and or product, I will get another service provider, right? That's how we do with everything. But for some reason in the martial arts, all of a sudden when you go, I don't like it here, and you go to leave, it's all about the gym and how selfish they are. Oh, you're a traitor. You're a piece of crap. Well, how about you be better at your job and I'll stay? How about if you made me happy to be here, I wouldn't leave? You know what I'm saying? So I'm kind of curious because you've had to go through that transition where you, I guess at one point in time, maybe the gym that you started off just wasn't in the cards for you for some reason or another. And then you moved to another gym. So what was that experience like going, you know what, this isn't for me. Maybe I should move to another one.
Yeah, it was tough because my training buddies were my life. Like, they were my best friends. And, if you're training 10 hours a week, then like you're just get super close to those people. And so yeah, it was really hard. And yeah, there were different reasons why I left, but like I said, I didn't know anything about jiu-jitsu. And when I started getting more into it and really decided and committed that this was going to be a lifestyle for me, I was like, okay, where do I want to be for the long haul? And it took some time to figure that out because when I first walked in, I didn't know anything. So once I figured it out, I'm like, okay, this is where I really want to commit to being. And so I made the transition. And I walked in and I'm a chick and I'm a white belt. And like, it took some time for me to feel like I was kind of grounded. And I literally felt like I was starting over from the beginning again, which sucked. But in the long run, it's definitely worth it. It was a good move for me.
That's awesome. And I think that that's an important thing for a lot of people to understand in the arts. I think that it's a scare tactic personally for your instructor whenever you start going, hey, I'm not comfortable, I'm not happy. It's easier sometimes for them to toss their insecurity out and go, you're a traitor, than it is to look inside themselves as what they should be doing anyway for that personal development. Go, what am I doing wrong? How can I develop and what can I do to make you happier to be able to stay in the studio? And I think that a lot of instructors, one, are messing that up, but I think a lot of students are afraid to leave a studio because of the awkwardness that'll happen. But to me, I say treat that shit like a breakup, dude. You know it's bad for you. Don't fucking stay there and make it more miserable for yourself. Go somewhere that makes you happy. And I think that that's an awesome thing that you did early on. You already have that experience now. You move to another gym. And now hopefully that's not as scary of an experience if it happens to come up again. And I think that that's an empowering message to anybody who's in a martial arts studio is it's okay to leave. Just leave. You rip the Band-Aid off, you go somewhere else. Next thing you know, you're happy. And that's what you're really looking for in the arts. So I kudos to you for that. Now,
thanks. Yeah, I don't plan on leaving. Todd White is my professor, and he and his wife Meg are amazing. It's a Jean-Jacques Machado lineage, and I feel like I'm getting really, really great training, and I'm really happy to be there. It's just the whole environment feels really light and safe, and it's a good place. I'm happy. Yeah.
Now, through your experiences, right? Let's dabble back into your other job because, in all honesty, I'm pretty sure that the people that are watching probably want to hear about that shit too. So, you're a tantric sex specialist. So, your job is to what? Explain your job a little bit so that way people can understand like exactly what it is you do on a day-to-day basis. So, there's no real misconceptions about what it is you do.
Yeah. So I have an online course for men. It's called Sex Stallion Training. And it's a video and audio course that leads guides for 7 weeks through the process of beginning with strengthening their PC muscle. I take them through learning how to edge, being able to masturbate for 20 minutes without ejaculating. For a lot of guys, that's really difficult. um, and it helps them be able to separate their orgasm from ejaculation and be able to orgasm, have multiple orgasms, full body orgasms, and to be able to move their sexual energy through their body. So all of that goes over the course of 7 weeks, and it's 20 minutes a day. So the first day of the week, they would watch the video where I'm sitting there describing the practice to them, telling them what to do. And then for that entire week, they would listen to a guided audio for 15 to 20 minutes a day. And it's me saying, okay, now do this, now do this, now do this. And so it's, they're masturbating, training their body, how to, I guess basically how to be better in bed. Because what happens so many times is guys train their body in masturbating and they're watching porn. They're not really paying attention. It's quick. Many guys, most guys, 75% ejaculate within 1 to 3 minutes. And so
it's not a race. Yeah. This is not a race. You're not supposed to be trying to get shit done. Like, I got stuff to do, man. I got a meeting in life.
Well, yeah. Well, and there are a lot of reasons for that. It's actually biological. The reason guys have evolved that way, because it was better to ejaculate quickly when they were out in nature. We're in tribal society and they're out in nature and there are tigers hunting them, things like that.
That's a hell of a time to masturbate. Like, oh fuck, the tiger's coming. I gotta rub this one out. Like,
and also, the quicker a guy ejaculated, the more likely sperm is going to get up inside the pussy, and she would get pregnant. His sperm, his everything would go on.
More like a biological need than anything else, like the procreation.
So it's all mostly it's biological. But now we live in a day and age where guys want to last longer. Women want them to, particularly, because now we have sex for pleasure. We don't have sex for procreation purposes very often. In the grand scheme of things, like, we have sex for pleasure much more than for procreation.
Not trying to have no little Robs. Not trying to,
so if we're going to be having sex for pleasure, then we have to learn how to pleasure each other. And one of the ways, because women very rarely will have sex through vaginal intercourse if he's only lasting 1 to 3 minutes. It's just not going to happen. So I help guys learn that. So that way she's more satisfied in bed. Because what happens is, if a woman isn't satisfied in bed, she'll be okay with it for maybe like the first few months, and then she's gonna lose interest. She's not gonna want to have sex anymore. She's gonna start having headaches. She's gonna start having her period for 2 weeks instead of like 5 days. Like, what? You're still on your period? Yeah.
Yeah, you want to text like, I'm still on my period. It's like, you've been on your period for a month. Like, what the hell?
It happens.
Well, that's sad. I think that's sad. And, I think that's awesome that you have the ability to kind of help people out. Now, obviously you're a professional. This is something you do for a living, so you're going to be professional about it, but maybe we can be a little vague, because I am curious. I'm sure that you have people who come to you with all types of issues, and the issues are typically probably the reasons that they are having sexual problems. It's probably a lot more deep-seated than just, I jerk off and I come in my hand in 2 seconds. Like, it's probably not like the only reason that those things happen. So what are some of the issues that usually come to you, the reason people are having poor performance issues, and what are those issues that they're having problems with?
Yeah, when I work with people in private one-on-one coaching, we really get to the root of these issues. And most of premature ejaculation and erectile dysfunction are tied to some sort of emotional component. Not always, especially premature ejaculation. Sometimes that really is just biological. But I have definitely seen it a lot of times with guys where it comes up because of something happened in their lives. And it can be relationship issues. Maybe there was performance anxiety at the beginning of the relationship, and that triggered ejaculating quickly, and then he got in his head about it. I see that a lot with guys, and I always remind them, like, you're only going to self-sabotage if you get stuck in your head. And so I actually teach components in sex stallion training for ways for guys to be in their body. This is an issue that we have in all of Western society, is being very cortex driven. And I help people tap in again. One of the guys that's in my program right now just messaged me, and he's like, after 3 weeks of this, I already feel like I'm in touch with my nervous system again. And that's what these practices do. It's like helping get into the bodies and into the sensations there. Because a lot of our issues come from our neuroses when we're stuck in our heads all the time.
Yeah, so what do you think the more common sexual issues are? Is it like erectile dysfunction? Is it premature ejaculation? Is it a fear of sex in general? What do you think the most common one is for people?
Yeah, I definitely, premature ejaculation is a big one. Erectile dysfunction is also. I teach guys how to do testicle massage, and that really helps with erectile dysfunction. But yeah, I think most of our sexual issues though come from the sexual repression that we have in society, where we've been taught that sex is dirty, sex is bad, sex is shameful. These are things that, when we're kids, if we're taught, like, sex is something to keep in the closet and not talk about, it's going to affect us in our adulthood, because we have neural pathways in our brain saying to us, sex is dirty, sex is bad, sex is shameful, I shouldn't be doing this. And then when we're in adulthood, those neural pathways are still there. And so they don't just go away. Like, it takes time to create new ones. And so that's why with sex stallion training, it's 7 weeks and it's a daily practice, because the daily practice is what creates the new patterns and the new habits. So yeah, I'd say it's just all of the repression that we have. And that's why, as a martial artist, like, it's definitely a balance for me, because I respect the martial arts community, and I don't ever want to show disrespect to it. And at the same time, I know without a doubt that sexual repression only hurts people. And so, like, that is why I'm also like, okay, I can do both. Like, I can respect the community, and I can also respect and honor who I am as a person, knowing that sexual repression isn't going to do any of us any good.
Now, do you think one helps the other? Like, like, obviously, I would have to imagine that if people are active and they're more physical and they're doing something like martial arts, whether it be jiu-jitsu, wrestling, boxing, whatever, does that physically affect them in a positive way sexually, or do you think that it hurts them in some way?
No, I definitely think that it helps them. I mean, if you can move, if you're not too sore to move.
Not tonight, my legs.
That's the thing with jiu-jitsu. I come home and I'm like, oh my God, like, I get every bone in my body, every muscle hurts. But it does increase testosterone. Martial arts increase testosterone, and that's where our sex drive comes from. So I always encourage guys to do martial arts, definitely.
Yeah, because I mean, sometimes you want to choke people and then go home and then choke somebody again.
Or choke them the next day.
Yeah.
Or you can move again.
Or after your soreness is over. It's funny because, like, obviously most of what I do has to do with social media and stuff like that. And, you have a fairly big social media presence as well. So we're talking about repression, right? And people repressing sexual energies, and people like straying away from that because we're conditioned that that is a bad thing. But let's talk about some of the places that actually condition that, like, for instance, your Instagram got taken down. One of your Instagrams, because I think you have 3, if I remember correctly, 3 Instagrams. So one of them got taken down, and it got taken down for what I would imagine is a type of sexual repression, right? So why do you think that one of your Instagrams got taken down? Why do you think that happened?
Yeah, I mean, just because I talk about sex, I follow all of Instagram's policies, and I actually received 2 apologies from Facebook, because Facebook owns Instagram. Apologies for taking my account down, and they flagged my account. So that won't happen again. So I'm really grateful for that. But yeah, it's definitely just because, I talk about sex, and if I end up on a hashtag somewhere and, somebody doesn't like it and they're like, what's this? Like, why is she talking about sex on this page full of dogs or whatever? Who knows how you end up places on the internet.
Yeah.
You get flagged and
there are websites
for that. Yeah. Or there's haters that want to sabotage. So all that kind of stuff happens. But there's a lot of talk around, Facebook and Instagram and suppression of sexuality. And so it's definitely a conversation that's going on right now.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up. Just to be honest, like, it's fucked up. Like, I first of all, I'm not a big fan of censorship. I don't like censorship. I think that we have the right as individuals to censor our own stimulus, especially online, right? If there's somebody who's constantly harassing me and talking shit, I don't necessarily need them taking off the internet. I will just block them. Boop. I move on with my life. They can move on with their life, right? But to have like a big brother figure standing over you going, you can't talk about that, can't talk about that, can't talk about this. It's like very, very repressive. And it's not just the sexual stuff, man. Like, it's almost anything sometimes that you say that the majority of people might not agree with or might not want to hear. And then all of a sudden, boom, we got to take you down. And like, I don't think that they understand the true gravity of what social media is now, because social media for me is a job. This is now my career. I run McDojoLife full time. And so let's say tomorrow something happened and one of my pages got taken down. Well, financially, that's going to hurt me. Now, I wouldn't be shut down forever. Like, I'm going to come back and I'm going to keep doing what I do. But the same thing is like, it just doesn't seem very fair, I guess.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They have a lot of power. They really do. And it's also, trends are affected, markets are affected. So much is affected by social media. Somebody will want a bubble in an industry and they'll start it on social media. They'll get everybody all hyped up about this bubble and they want to make money off of it. And so they'll, sell out, and then they'll affect the markets in that way as well. So that way they can make money both ways. Yeah. Social media is a big deal.
It's fucked up, man. We got too much power to a few people in the world. I don't like it. But because there's a slight delay between comment sections and our talk, what I want to do is I just want to let everybody know, whoever's watching now, we're going to keep chit-chatting, but go ahead and start tossing some questions out for Sarrah, right? Whatever questions you have. Somebody just sent a link to YouTube. I have no clue what that link is because we can't click it on it right now because we're in the middle of a conversation. But for you guys, you're more than welcome to toss out some questions, right? Really, Sarah's pretty cool lady, so feel free to toss out whatever. If I think that you're a big, huge douchebag, I won't toss it up. But if you have a legitimate question, by all means. So just in case you guys are hopping in now during the conversation, she is a tantric sex specialist, so she helps people out with sexual issues that they may be having. Also a jiu-jitsu practitioner. So if you have any questions about jiu-jitsu, or if you have any questions about her as a female in the martial arts or sexual issues, just go ahead and toss them out there. I know that probably not a lot of dudes are going to be willing to toss out a whole bunch of sexual issues. Like, I have erectile dysfunction. My name is Steve. You should help me. I doubt that'll happen, but I'm sure that some of you guys might have some questions. So by all means, go ahead and toss those up on the screen and I'll toss them up and then we can read them live. But anyway, back to what we were talking about. So you are with Jean-Jacques Machado's lineage, right?
Yes.
Have you gotten a chance to meet him yet or not?
No, not yet, but I'm really excited to. I'll probably be in LA in a couple of weeks, and so I'm hoping to go to the school then. And when I first joined the school, I tagged him in my post, and he liked the post, and I was so excited.
Yeah, man.
I felt like a giddy little schoolgirl. I'm like, oh my God, John just liked my post.
Yeah, man, it still gets me every time he likes one of my posts, like every time. Like, oh, man.
Right?
Legend. It's funny because Eddie Bravo was a bad motherfucker. Like, Eddie Bravo got fantastic jiu-jitsu. He was able to build an entire organization around no gi when everybody was doing gi and no gi was frowned upon. really a revolutionary of our time in jiu-jitsu or martial arts in general. Like that dude's going to have his face on walls we will bow to as martial artists later on down the road. But he gives so much credit to Jean-Jacques. It's incredible, like how respectful this dude is. And that goes to tell you just how awesome Jean-Jacques is. So if anybody out there does not know who Jean-Jacques Machado is, you need to look this dude up. His jiu-jitsu is incredible. Obviously, he's got a great lineage. And I've been to that school in LA, and the guys over there, just let me know, and I'll try to introduce you to some of the guys before you even get over there. So that way when you come in, you'll feel welcome and at home. I've been pretty fortunate. Yeah, I went to a tournament. They had like an in-house tournament over there at his studio. And Doc wasn't there that day. Here's a question. Never mind what I have to say. Nick has something to say. He says, how do you have sex for 2 hours? That's a very legitimate question. Let's see. How do you have sex for 2 hours?
Yeah, that's
a lot of lube, I would imagine.
A lot of what?
Lube. A lot of lube.
A lot of lube. So I think when people hear about Tantra, they mistake sex for intercourse. So the entire sexual experience is much more than just the penetration of penis and pussy. And so you can be together making love and just feeling each other's vibration and experiencing each other without actually having to be fucking the entire time. So is it possible to fuck for 2 hours? I mean, I guess people definitely could have that kind of stamina. I don't know how pleasurable it would end up being. You would just get really raw and sore and, but I've definitely had sex for long periods of time, and it's amazing. And, you take breaks, and it's like in one moment you're making love, and then the next moment you're fucking, and the next minute you're snuggling. And, it just kind of is the flow of the entire sexual experience, not just penetration.
So for you, sex is obviously the starting point for you. It might not even be during contact for what you consider sex. It's more of the overall experience of what's going on. So like, I guess his question may have been more geared towards intercourse for 2 hours, but what you said makes a lot of sense. It's the entire experience is what you're talking about, correct?
Yeah, and a lot of people, they hear Tantra, and the first thing they think about is staying, I feel like the hours he said he had sex keep like going up, but it was something like 6 hours. People are like, oh my God, how could you have sex for 6 hours? And my camera just shifted, did it?
No, you're good. You're good.
I'm good? Okay. And so, yeah, I don't think he was talking about like literally sitting there thrusting for 6 hours straight. Because as much as I love what?
Yeah, lower back pains. I'm tired of this shit.
As much as I love sex, like there gets a point where like enough is enough. But with tantric sex, it's a lot of moving energy. It's moving sexual energy. So it's not just sex in the conventional way that we're used to having it and that we're used to talking about it. So when you're moving sexual energy, it's literally taking the energy from your sex organs, moving it through your body up to the crown of your head, circulating it with your partner, bringing it back down. And when you have this loop of this sexual energy going between you and your partner, then it sustains you and it keeps filling you up. So it's not like when a lot of times when guys ejaculate, it's like all this sexual energy is just going out of their body and they can feel drained. That's why there's a refractory period afterwards. But if you're having tantric sex and you're able to orgasm without ejaculating, then you can keep having sex and just continue having this loop. And it can be moments of even just being absolutely still with your partner. Like you can have penis inside of pussy and just laying there completely still together and still have this cycle, or you don't even have to be inside of her. But the energy, the sexual energy is still moving.
So he said, is it true? Maybe he mistyped. I have to imagine he mistyped. So I'm just going to, is it like the concept of Egyptian chakras or something?
So I'm not trained in Egyptian Tantra. I know a little bit about it and I've done some practices, but it's not something that I can speak with on with authority. My training is yogic Indian Tantra. And so, but yes, in that Tantra, there are chakras. Yes. So you have 7 chakras and you're moving the energy from the base, the first and second chakras, up to the crown of the head and then back down.
And this is more so, again, like one thing that I've kind of like noticed and like, is that it's not so much like a mystical thing. It's more like a concentration thing from what I understand. So like rather than people trying to think it more like a mysticism type thing, it's really not. It just kind of seems like more like what you're focusing your energy on at a given time. Kind of like if you focus on blinking, you can't help but notice that you're blinking. So your blinking becomes fucked up. So you're like, I have to blink now, or you stare too long, or you start noticing like, or you start thinking about like the way you hold your tongue on the roof of your mouth, and all of a sudden that's all you can think about for the next couple hours, right? It kind of seems like it's more like that, more like a concentration on what you're focusing your energy on, which is probably why people fuck up all the time during sex, because they're concentrating on the wrong shit. Like you were talking about getting into your own head. Like, is this good? Am I good enough? I just like me. Fuck, work. Now, now all I can think about is it's not working. Shit. And like that.
It stops working.
Yeah. Fuck.
Yes, it's very true. And you're absolutely right. And that's why I don't teach Tantra in a spiritual way, because I think that a lot of the Tantra that's being taught out there right now is actually doing people a disservice, because it's taught very woo woo and very, out there, new age, spiritual, mystical, things like that, that a lot of people don't really buy into. It's not part of their lifestyle, and they're like, I don't want any part of that shit. Like,
it's fucking weird.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a lot of fucking weird stuff.
Yeah.
And I personally don't think it's necessary. If people want to practice Tantra in that way, that's fine. They absolutely can, but they don't have to. Anybody can practice Tantra and have better sex. And it's so much more than the better sex, though, because what it does is it really just opens up so much in the body and so much in the mind, and it helps that creative energy flow more freely so you can channel it into other areas of your life. So if you want to create a better relationship, if you want to create a new career for yourself, if you want to create better life with your kids, whatever it is that you want to create, you can use that sexual energy in that way.
So it's more like a focus, like it's more like what you're concentrating your energy on, as opposed to, because like it's the same thing can be said about martial arts, right? If you want to self-improve, go have a grown man trying to choke you for like an hour, right? And it opens up your perspectives on things a little differently, but that's pretty cool. That's really, really, really cool. Somebody said, I don't know who this is, which is actually an amazing segue to the end of the show. So I would like you to do me a favor, make sure everybody knows who you are, where they can find you on social media, and everything about your job. How can they learn more about Sarrah Rose?
Okay. I'm Sarrah Rose. My company is Tantric Activation, www.tantricactivation.com. On Instagram, it's Tantric Activation is my Tantra page, and my Jiu-Jitsu page is Sarrah Rose Jiu-Jitsu. Sarrah has 2 R's, SarrahRose, Jiu-Jitsu. And it's funny because sometimes I'll get comments about my Jiu-Jitsu page being too sexual, and I'm like, obviously you haven't seen the Tantra page.
Funny.
Like, I feel like I'm so just watered down, not watered down. It's just it's a different side of me on Jiu-Jitsu, on my Jiu-Jitsu page. But it's definitely not sexual compared to the other one. So yeah, I am a men's sex coach. I help men become better lovers. I have an online course called Sex Stallion Training. and it's he says he's going to the Jiu-Jitsu page. Well, you might want to check it. But Sex Stallion Training is an online course for men. It's 7 weeks that you do in the privacy of your own home that will lead you through the process to become a sexual master. You want to learn how to be better in bed? Do Sex Stallion Training. Don't watch porn.
Well, somebody agrees that he came to the right place, because yes, you can choke people both places. Yeah. So, but yeah, thank you again for coming on. I really appreciate your time. I think it's very awesome to get your perspective on the things that we were able to talk about. I think it's very interesting that, you know, you've been able to go through this without really a lot of harassment in the industry, which is great, although you're just getting started. So don't give up on the harassment yet. It may still happen. But yeah, thank you so much for your time and for talking. I really appreciate that. And also, just in case people didn't know, before we dip out, last little thing, I always ask one question, but I have 2 questions before we go. So before I ask my final question, you did a show with Master Ken, which is kind of one of the ways that you were able to like get here and be on this show as well. But you did a show with Master Ken. So can you tell me a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So you can find it on his Instagram page, or if you just Google or on YouTube, you can just do Master Ken Tantra and it'll pop up. But yeah, it was so much fun. I went to Albuquerque just for one night, and I got to, you know, go there to the dojo, and we did all the filming. Nate, Nasty Nate Harris was there. He was the guy that I was like practicing stuff on, and he's hilarious also. Both great guys. Had a lot of fun with them.
That's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then my final question is the question I ask everybody. Now, you've only been training for coming up on a year now, so you might not have a lot of these, but my favorite stories are stories from the dojo, right? Things that happen inside the studio that most people would not be aware of that happened unless they were there at that moment. So do you happen to have one yet, or have you heard of one yet?
Well, the school that I'm at, the kids class is before the adult class, and like those kids, like they poop. And so like there's been a couple of times that we're like, oh no, what is that on the mat?
Oh, the kid shit on the mat. Oh, holy crap.
Yeah. And so like I was literally rolling the other night, and I ended up like in the poop corner where we had been, like where the poop had been. I mean, the poop was cleaned up and it was gone and everything. And the dude I was rolling with, he was like, I've gone my whole life with no STDs, and now you're making me roll in the poop corner. Like, I think we're okay, but yeah.
All right. Well, I have had one kid shit on me before during a class, so I understand. Like literally on my leg. He was a free trial. It was his very first day. I'm teaching karate at the time, but it's a free trial. The kid's acting up on the mat, so I was like, "Hey, man, let's just go ahead and see your mom." And he was like, "No." And the kid's like 8 years old. He's not like 4 or 5, right? He's like, "No, I'm not going to go see my mom." I was like, "Dude, let's just go see your mom. He's being a disturbance. He's being unsafe. He's being an asshole, basically." And then so I was like, well, let me just help you go see your mom. So I went to go like help him like get up because he was laying on the floor. I went to go help him get up, and he wraps his arms and legs around my leg. I was like, so I do the thing that you would probably see most of the time with a little kid is I just started walking towards his mom with this asshole on my leg, right? And I'm like walking, and it's a pretty good distance. And then all of a sudden I felt something warm on my leg. And I looked down, and this little asshole took a shit. He took a shit in his pants while I'm teaching a fucking class, and he shit on my goddamn leg. Now, it wasn't like the shit like came all the way through his pants or whatever, but it was warm. I could look down and see if there was shit. Needless to say, I had to change the pants. I didn't trust the pants that much. But yeah, I've been there. I understand what you're talking about.
Oh my God, that's disgusting.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking gross. If you're in the industry long enough, you will see some gross shit. So
yeah.
But anyway, on that note, thank you once again for being here. Thank you for plugging your stuff. I really appreciate it. Last time, you can check out Sarrah Rose on Instagram. You can check her out at Tantric Sex Activation. correct?
Just tantric activation.
Tantric activation, right? That's also your website, and it's also your Instagram. So thank you so much, and I will catch all of you guys later. Deuces.